Don, you ready? Well, we'd like to introduce Mayor Tom Ludd, and he's running for mayor, and Vice Mayor Melvin Willis, who's also running for mayor. So we're going to open it up to questions, but I'd like to start out with the first question. And the question is that you've heard the audience here, and there's a serious need for police officers. What do you guys plan on doing if elected to bring back police officers? Whoever wants to start.
Would you repeat the question one more time?
As you heard the audience asking that we need more police officers, if you get elected as mayor, what are you going to do to bring more police officers on patrol?
I'll start?
Yeah.
Okay. So, everywhere I go in Richmond, the number one concern I hear from people is they want more police officers, they want more police patrols. What have we heard tonight? We've heard about donuts, people blocking driveways, people parking on sidewalks, speeding. Just the other night we had a dozen 23rd Street merchants begging for the city to do something about prostitution on 23rd Street. We had a woman who works for BARD at our last city council meeting begging the city to come enforce the law in the plaza of the BARD station where the city has jurisdiction. People at Monterey Pines are concerned about homicides. People in my neighborhood are concerned about car break-ins, stealing tools out of people's pickups. I mean, everywhere you go in Richmond, people want more police services. Is there anybody here who wants less police services? Okay, a couple of RPA members back there. So here's what my opponent said about police last year, quoted in an Oakland newspaper. Willis said he would like to cut the police department's budget and reallocate some of its remaining funding to city youth programs. So that's not where I'm at. I want to grow the city's budget. I want to grow economic development. I want to grow our tax base. I want to grow our revenue. And I want to be able to fully staff our police department so that we can provide the services that people want and people need. Thank you.
So yes, I've been hearing the concern about police as well, but where I'm coming from too is that recognizing what our budget is and how much of a percentage of our budget is being allocated to public safety, which about 60% of our budget is going towards public safety. There's other services though within our city that are struggling as well. Now, when I was just having a conversation with somebody outside, we can increase more police, but that doesn't automatically mean that crime is going to go down. There are own police officers that came here today saying that after social studies and many things that they've looked at, they found out that arrests don't actually mean safety. So with that quote, when I'm talking about taking from the budget to invest in youth programs and services, that comes from me actually having door-to-door conversations, asking people what are issues and concerns, and what do people want to see get improved. And what I do end up seeing when it comes up to those conversations is people are saying that there's not enough for our youth to do, and whenever they point out the culprits of a lot of crime and violence, they say it's because of the youth. It's because there's not as many youth programs and services. There's not as many programs and services that there used to be back in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of those services have dried up, so because our youth don't have nothing to do, they turn to the streets and other illicit activities. When I'm thinking about our overall budget of what we need to do, I'm thinking about all the services we need, because police, at the end of the day, when you call on a crime, they're going after the symptom. They're not going after the root cause of why people are going out in the community and causing these illicit activities to begin with. If we were able to fund our libraries more, bring in more jobs, which is why I also fought to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which it will be by 2019, stabilizing housing and rents, and in general giving people what they need ahead of time. It's about giving folks what they need so they don't feel like they don't need to actually go out and commit those illicit activities to begin with. And also when it comes to wanting to work with police, get your issues concerned. One thing I do is I'm a community organizer, and I've been to this neighborhood council meeting in the past and left my phone number and email. And I simply say, even right now before I leave, I'll leave my card. We can all meet together, figure out what all the issues are, and make a plan on how we're going to engage with our police department and our staff to figure out what those creative solutions are, so when we actually go do something, we're effective about it. Thank you. I wasn't a timer, but I'll end it right there.
Any more questions?
Do either of you have any idea what is going to happen with the Hilltop Mall? Is part of it going to be used for housing as they originally planned, or is it going to be stores again? This area, as I understand it, is going to have an influx from Silicon Valley, and a lot of property is going to be eaten up. We see already charter schools popping up like flies in this part of the Richmond Hilltop area. So what I want to know is, do you foresee that a lot of the land is going to be bought up and Silicon Valley will be moving in for us, and what will happen with the mall?
So me, myself, personally, I know there's been a lot of issues that have been going on with the mall, and the last part where I checked in is the future of the mall has been kind of up in the air. What I did hear is that we do have an interested developer that was thinking about building housing on top of keeping some of the shops there right now. So I can check with city staff and identify who that person is and what their plan is, but that's the last concept idea I got, was building housing there and keeping some of the remaining shops over there. And for me, when it comes to housing, I'm also looking towards mixed-use income housing, because I believe we are in an affordable housing crisis, but I also know affordable housing is hard to build, so to help desegregate communities, having mixed income housing available in cities is a way to bring community members from all different income levels and all walks of life together. So that would be my interest for Hilltop Mall moving forward, but I can check with staff and get back to people on that.
Well, as all of you know, there are new owners of Hilltop Mall. They've been there about a year, and they have ambitious plans for the mall. They're doing a major multi-million-dollar rehab of the mall. They're aggressively seeking new tenants, and over the long term, they plan to fill a lot of that area that's empty parking lots up with inland housing. Some of the exciting things that they're looking at doing is bringing in a grocery store. You know, for years, people in the Hilltop area have told me that their number one priority is to get a supermarket in the Hilltop area. And they told me they have a contract now with Ranch 99 Market, and that they will be coming into Hilltop, and they'll become a new anchor grocery store at Hilltop and provide basically supermarket services. Additional housing is a good thing at Hilltop, because it will create, by bringing more people in there and densifying the area, it will create more people to patronize the stores there. So that'll make the economic viability of Hilltop greater. And so that's the direction they're going. I've fully supported them. You know, when the place was bankrupt and in trusteeship, I made phone calls on a monthly basis to everybody involved, trying to find out, when's something going to happen? When are you going to deal with Hilltop? And so they finally did. And if you've been around, you know, they've made an interesting start. You know, a year ago, you could go up to Hilltop any night of the week and the place was just deserted. But, you know, in the last several months, I've been to many, many major activities up there. You know, it started back, you know, last Christmas season. They had a big Hanukkah celebration there. You know, they had an Asian beauty contest there. They had a candidates forum there just about a month ago. And, you know, they're doing more and more of these activities to try to bring the community in there and serve the community. So I have high hopes for it. I think if there's anything you would like to see at Hilltop, you know, email me or give me a call, and I'll talk to the owners, or I'll put you in touch with them, because you all are the neighbors, and you're also the patrons of businesses up there, and they probably are very interested in hearing what you have to say. I think they've been to these neighborhood council meetings, right, Arto? They've been?
When?
Yeah, okay, well, invite them back again. Bring them down here every month, just like the police, and ask them what they're doing. So, you know, I'm optimistic about it. You know, one final thing, when the city adopted its general plan in 2012, we adopted a plan that provided for much greater residential density at Hilltop. So we sort of laid the foundation and lessened the obstacles to them to build that out and actually make what was once simply a commercial plaza, you know, into a mixed-use project with residential, commercial, and all the other services. So stay tuned on that grocery store. Bring them down here and ask them how soon that grocery store is going to open.
I'll try to make this brief. 99 Ranch, okay? My concern is when the new company came in that took over the mall, they set up a leasing department. And I went over there and asked them for their demographics. And one, they refused, but I could tell by the business cards that were on the desk, there was only one nationality representing the leasing department. 99 Branch is not really known for equal opportunity. Okay, you can go over to their other stores, and there's very little of group atmosphere of nationalities within their environment. What can the city do to force them to hire equitable employees, you know, in regards to African Americans, Latinos, Anglo-Saxons? What is it for our neighborhood?
Well, to understand your question, I think the basic question is, what can the city do to motivate the owners of the new grocery store to hire local and to hire a diversified staff? Is that essentially the question? Because it is not owned by the city and has no contracts with the city, there's no mechanism I'm aware of for the city to put those kind of requirements on them. But there are some other things to keep in mind. One is that businesses like that predominantly do hire local people. I would be very surprised to see a Ranch 99 come in here and to see people commuting from San Leandro or somewhere else up here. They will hire local people. The other thing is that we have a $15 an hour minimum wage that goes into effect in about a little over 3 months. And so people will be making a minimum wage that's as high as any in California. And that's a good thing. And because local people are going to be working there, I can almost guarantee that you're going to get diversity. I mean, Richmond, as we all know, is a diverse city. It's a minority, majority city. And the workforce is diversified. And I think that you're going to see that there. And if it's not, I would let them know, let me know. We'll talk to them. But I say give them a chance. You know, these Ranch 99 markets are, they really are successful. And, you know, they're Asian themed, and they did that on purpose because they wanted to have something that had a special attraction to it. But the flip side, how many of you have ever been to Ranch 99, the one down in South Richmond? You know, it has everything that any supermarket has, and it has a better selection of fruits and vegetables than most. It's got meats and fish that are probably the best you'll see anywhere. It's the only place in Richmond I know where you go down and pick out a live fish or a live lobster. take it home with you. So, you know, I think it's going to satisfy a lot of what people see as their desires for a comprehensive supermarket. And if it doesn't, let them know. Let me know. Thanks.
And one of the things that I organized in the past when the issues of whether or not local hire was going to be happening when it came to certain businesses, because folks remember different industries coming through Richmond but never really prioritizing disadvantaged workers or giving out good jobs to folks, so we didn't want things to be an island of opportunity. So one thing that came to mind when that question was asked is, I'd be interested in seeing if a group of folks want to get together and really actually talk about, like, what is your vision for Hilltop Mall? Like, what are some of the problems you had with it in the past, and what are some of the things and elements that you want to get into it? And also being a public official, being a part of those meetings to help carry the political weight so that vision can be realized. Then actually arranging a meeting with the folks that are going to be developing it, who are now owning Hilltop Mall, and making sure that the community stakeholders that want to see that develop equitably, that those voices are there represented, and something that we can push for to get the developers to agree is some memorandum of understandings or community benefits agreement that says, okay, if you're going to be developing this way, this is who you're going to hire, this is who you're committed to have the demographic be, this is where you're going to target, and these are going to be the stakeholders that you work with. Because the mayor is right on that. There isn't necessarily a mechanism for us to be able to force them as city's officials, but using our political influence and community pressure and actually making our vision known and having those conversations as opposed to just letting them do whatever they want is going to be important for anything and any type of development that moves forward. Because at the end of the day, yes, we do need more developments to come to the city of Richmond, but we also need to make sure that the community conversation and vision of what people are expecting from those developments is represented that way. It can be something that comes in that's actually accepted by the community and not a burden or a hindrance on us. So just a process of meeting, figuring out the vision, making a plan on how we engage with the developer and get it actually in a legally binding document, so we have a blueprint of what we're going to expect as that place moves forward.
Can I add something quickly? May I add something quickly? Sure. Okay. So I think that maybe there's an anticipation of a problem that perhaps doesn't exist. Some of you may know that currently Richmond has the lowest unemployment rate in Richmond history. It's a little over 3%, and that is actually more than full employment. So we don't have a situation in Richmond where people are desperately looking for jobs and where employers are picking and choosing and turning people down. We have a shortage of workers, and anybody that can show up to a business with basic skills is going to get hired. You just heard the officer here making the police report say that police departments are having trouble hiring officers. I mean, it's not just the police. You name it. It's fast food places, it's grocery stores, it's police departments, it's architects, whatever field you're in, all of these businesses are desperate to hire people. And so I think the problem is not going to be are Richmond people going to get hired here. The problem is going to be, are they going to find enough people to staff the store when it comes in?
Mayor and Vice Mayor, I got a couple of questions and one suggestion. Question number one is, what are you going to do about the roads up here? I know they have worked on some of them, but there's still 3 or 4 areas up here that are in disrepair. When is that going to get taken care of? Question number 2 is Point Melati. What's happening out there? And my last thing is the suggestion.
Microphone, please.
The last thing is a suggestion regarding speed bumps. The city of Richmond's, to get a speed bump installed is arcane. It takes 2 years and then it may not get done. This is ridiculous. This area up here because of a lack of police officers, we need speed bumps in this area. My street, Wiswalk, Brew, Shane, Jerry Richardson's been working on Shane for, what, a year and a half now, and can't get speed bumps in. Do something about that situation, and that would alleviate some of the people's concerns up here about having police officers around. And those are my 2 questions and a suggestion.
Thank you. What I will say is just even showing up to other city jurisdictions in California, roads have been an issue for a lot of folks in road repair because it is pretty expensive. And I'm just going to repeat this because this is my main methodology in getting things done, is that when there is an issue that pops up, call and demand and schedule a meeting with all your city officials and bring your neighbors there too so we can understand like what the landscape is, where the priorities are, and actually start to make that plan on addressing things, because I get calls about several different issues about all over the city to where I show up on hand, try to figure out what's going on, try to work with our staff to come up with a solution. One issue was Nickel Park. Our sand was contaminated. There was a parent that had 26 cases of ringworm that they found out about. Got them connected with our code enforcement department. They cleaned out all the sand, put something else there, and they're even trying to figure out how to rehab and revitalize the park because we ended up having that conversation. So the first step for me would be is figuring out where those hotspot areas and where communities are really trying to figure out the roads actually need repaired, and also with the speed bumps issue. And then at the same time, work with our traffic and engineering department to actually have to be a part of that conversation to figure what is the budget. Okay, if we don't have the budget, what are the county funds that we can apply for? What are the state funds that we can apply for? What other different measures and creative measures we can take to bring in that revenue to actually deal with that problem? And on the Point Bellotti issue, what's happening with that, other than maybe one person, nobody who voted on the settlement deal came from a very negative area, facetious area, which is kind of a thing that everybody was kind of split on when we voted on the settlement. But we basically have 2 years with a possible extension just to move something forward on that project, and that's going to require 670 units of housing per the settlement agreement that ended up getting agreed to on that issue. And right now we just kind of been in the middle of capturing a community vision, getting consultants, trying to see what people want to do, and then we need to do a next step of sending out we send out an RFQ and RFPs to see like what kind of proposals are out there, and then we have to have that extra conversation on which proposal do we like and make sure we do it before the time is up so the control doesn't shift to the other person who was suing us over it. So it's just kind of an ongoing thing that's happening.
Okay, so I think I heard 3 questions. Roads, Point Bellotti, and speed bumps. So I'll start with roads. The city of Richmond gets almost all of its revenue for street maintenance from 2 sources. From Measure J, which is a countywide sales tax that was passed several years ago. We get a certain allotment of that every year for local road maintenance. And then we get gas tax from the state. And put those 2 together, it's several $1 million. And that's what the city spends on streets. Historically, that provides about 1/3 of what the city really needs to spend on streets to keep them up to minimum standards. Now, last year, the California legislature passed and the governor signed SB1. SB1 is a statewide revenue measure that uses gas taxes and license plate fees and other sources for transportation projects around the state. A big part of that is what they call return to source. It goes back to individual cities like Richmond. Because of SB1, our street budget is just about doubled. So whatever you've seen in the past, in the future, you're going to see a lot more work being done. Now, you should know that is in danger. There is an item on the ballot, Prop 6. And Prop 6 was brought primarily by a bunch of conservative people in Southern California to try to repeal those taxes and to repeal all that money that's being used for roads. So when you go vote, that's something to look for. That's really important. It's a very high priority. So as far as your own road goes, contrary to popular belief, you don't get your road paved because you complain to somebody and they come out and pave it. The city has a system, and I'm not going to try to get into it in detail, but it has a system for determining what the paving and repair schedule is for roads. If you're interested in a specific road, you can email me. I will ask our Public Works Director, Yoder Bermudez, and typically he responds within 24 hours. So if that's something you're interested in, send me an email and I'll get back to you. But look for that Prop 6. If that Prop 6 passes, we're in big, big trouble. Second of all, point Lottie. Probably the most complicated thing you could ever talk about. We could spend hours, but I'll try to give you my very quick, condensed version. Point Lottie has been on the City Council agenda now for 23, almost 24 years. It's been in litigation most of that time. Somebody's unhappy with the direction it's going. We're at a point now where we negotiated back in April. The City Council negotiated and approved a settlement agreement with what was then the latest litigant to move forward on Point Lottie and to turn it into a mixed-use community that had rehabilitation and reuse of the historic Winehaven structures. It had 70% of it would go into public open space, shoreline park, bay trail, uplands, and it would also include housing. It would be a complete community where people are there 24 hours a day to keep an eye on the place. Now, I believe that about 99% of the people in Richmond are down with that. They want us to get on with Point Lottie, get it done, make it a new neighborhood where people can get housing and people can go there to enjoy the amenities and go there to enjoy the outdoors and the shoreline and that kind of thing. About 1% of people do not want to do that. They are obsessed with the idea that there should be no housing in Point Lottie. They're trying to blow this deal up. They are still litigating it. And the people that are suffering are the people of Richmond because you're being denied the potential revenue that comes from it. You're being denied the potential use of the public open space. And you're being denied the jobs and the economic activity that would be created out there. So, my opinion, these people that are trying to stop it, they're selfish, they're consumed with it, they're obsessed with it. And the interesting thing is that all the leaders of it are from out of town. The 3 top leaders of it, a former city council member from El Cerrito, a former council member and mayor from Albany, and a former mayor of Berkeley. They're the people that are leading this. Are we going to let them tell us how to run Richmond? Well, if that's your idea of how to run Richmond, then okay. But I want to get on with it. I want to see something happen out there that can benefit all of Richmond. Speed bumps, sorry. Speed bumps are part of this street maintenance thing. You know, they're all part of the street program and the money we spend on streets. And so I'm going to go back and say, again, remind you to be sure and do not vote no on the repeal of SB 1. The traditional way to get a speed bump is you go to your neighborhood and you do a petition and you make sure that the majority of the people on your street want the speed bump. You take that to the neighborhood council. You get the neighborhood council to approve it, and then you take that to the Public Works Director in the city of Richmond. They put a work order in on it, and they'll get you your speed bump. And these things don't happen overnight. If you think they're taking too long, call me. I'll work on it for you. But that's how the process is supposed to work.
Mayor Budd, nice to see you. Vice Mayor Willis, my pleasure. Okay, I'm going to try and make this a little more fun. So with that, I'd like to set up just a little hypothetical for you guys. Let's just take, for example, okay, we know we have a lot of, which we love, our small businesses in Richmond. We have some wonderful businesses. And these small businesses are, a lot of us go to them, we're proud of them. But we also have something else in Richmond. We have a lot of land in Richmond. There's a lot of land in Richmond, and there's opportunity with that. As much as we love the small businesses and a lot of the creative ideas, my hypothetical for you is, as an example, just to say like Apple, they're doing campuses, different places. And there's a lot of other billion-dollar businesses right here in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. If we were the one we needed to talk to and to sell us, we know to a point that there's going to be give in the big businesses in. But you having us come in, because I would like to see you give me an example of one large business in San Francisco, a billion-dollar business in San Francisco or Silicon Valley, and as if you were telling them what a wonderful place Richmond is and what we can do to help on our end get you in here. Give me an idea on how you would do that at the audience. I would love to hear that because I'm ready to grow.
So if I understood your question, it's what would we do to attract businesses to Richmond? Big businesses, small businesses?
Well, we have small businesses now.
Big businesses.
Apple, Salesforce. If you had the opportunity, you're in a mixer, they want to talk.
Why come to Richmond? Why come to Richmond?
Got it. Okay. Great question. One of the first things I did when I was elected mayor was I implemented something I've been wanting to do for years, and that is to do a branding and marketing study for the city of Richmond. And the purpose of that is to find out how we can better attract businesses to start up in Richmond or to move to Richmond. And so I tried this back in 2009, and I couldn't get it's a long story, but the short story is the city council wouldn't fund it. So when I became mayor, I decided that I'm not going to worry about the city council. I'm going to go raise the money myself and do this study. So I raised $105,000 from local businesses and brought in a consultant with nationwide credentials. And they did a marketing and branding study for the city of Richmond. And it had two parts. The first part was basically market research. And it was to find out what people in the greater Bay Area, what their image was in Richmond, what they knew about it, what they liked, what they didn't like, and use that as a basis. And then the second part was to develop a marketing and branding campaign that would take advantage of that information and utilize it to do exactly what you're talking about. Now the second thing I started doing is I started on a quarterly basis, I started having business roundtables. And what I would do is identify, every quarter, I would identify 3 businesses that either started in Richmond or recently moved to Richmond, and they were successful. We're not talking about mom and pop, we're talking about businesses that have multiple employees and, were really players. And so we brought them to these business roundtables, and we asked them 3 questions. The first question was, why did you come to Richmond? Why did you start a business in Richmond? The second one was okay, now that you've been here for a while, how's it going? What do you like? What don't you like? And the third thing was, how about your relationship with the city? If you needed permits, did the city process them promptly? Were the people in Richmond helpful? That kind of thing. And so over the last 3.5 years, we built up a significant database of information from these newcomers to Richmond. And if we can figure out why they came here, we can use that to go get other people. What we found out was that we found three things out. One is all of them came to Richmond for one primary reason: cheap land, cheap space, cheap rent. The secondary reason was access to the Bay Area. A lot of these businesses produce products that they sell around the Bay Area. And so Richmond's centrally located. It's got good access to the Bay Area. And the third thing they were looking for is a workforce. Richmond had, at least at the time they were coming here, had a lot of people here looking for jobs, and they could build their workforce up rapidly and get into business. So, but the next thing we asked was interesting. Well, how's it been going since you're here? All of them, every single one of them said, Richmond's a great place. We had some concerns when we came here. We heard we heard there was crime, there was blight, there was pollution. But since we're here, we just haven't seen it, and we're really happy we made the decision. And the other thing that surprised me, because they said, the city of Richmond's been great to them. The planning department, building department, processed their permits quickly, got them in here, no problems, no complaints, and all of them, would recommend to anybody that they consider moving their businesses to Richmond. So what we've done is we take all that information and we put it out there and continually try to convince people to come to Richmond. That's one of the main things I do as mayor. I meet with all kinds of businesses and developers who are interested in Richmond, and they want to go to somebody who can tell them, give them the true story about why they should locate their business here, what are the obstacles, what are the opportunities, and that's one of the most important things I do. I do it every single day. Did it today. And I know I'm taking a lot of time. I'm going to throw something else in. I'm the only person in the city council who's ever been in business. I'm a small business person myself, and I understand how businesses work, and I understand what's important to business. And I think it's important to have people in your city council, that have that kind of experience. And I'm the only person that has that, and I think that's a good reason to keep me there as mayor.
Mr. Willis?
I'll be brief. So basically selling the idea to Apple or something to bring them here. Well, one thing that Richmond uniquely has that a lot of cities don't have is our transportation hub, the fact that we have BART, Amtrak, AC Transit, and some other miscellaneous transit agencies that we have here. And also, we just heard that Hilltop Mall, the new owners, are looking into figuring out what new businesses to bring in. We can work with those owners over there to see, is there space over there for them that would attract Apple in and make sure that they come in for like a good price, or check in some of our other transportation corridors that make sense for somebody to say, is my business going to have visibility, or am I going to have a lot of foot traffic? So being able to work with our planning department and figure out where are the nice little zoning areas that can bring in such a big industry too, and make sure that we're putting them in the right zoning area that's connected to transportation, that's close to a freeway, close to high traffic, and also, as the mayor already said, we have cheap land too, so also sell them on the idea that this would be a cheap area to build into. And one of the other things that did attract a major thing here before they had internal problems and they weren't able to move forward with that business is when the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab was considering coming out here, they had two places to choose, Richmond or Livermore. And it was a huge, gigantic community push to get them to come out here, and then they ended up selecting Richmond. Now they ended up having a lot of financial problems, and when I checked in with the city manager, Bill Lindsay, that's something that he confirmed when he was talking to staff, is that they were dealing with a lot of internal issues that made the project not happen, but because so many people in the community were actually calling for it and a lot of folks got engaged, they chose Richmond as a location. So making sure that we have a good spot to sell them on a high traffic, to show them that their business is doing well, the fact that we have a transportation corridor that a lot of people come to, our placement within the region too. I know Berkeley has their own Apple store, but we'll be close to Hercules, we'll be close to Knoll, where going to be close to folks coming off of the 402. That would incentivize people who want to come down here as opposed to go all the way to Marin or Berkeley or somewhere else, because one thing I hear when it comes to Apple in particular is when that phone breaks, there is a drive and a travel to get it checked in at, and there's a lot of folks in this region that don't want to go all the way out just to deal with their Apple products, so that'd be a good thing to bring up too. You had something else?
And hit the big apple, like cut the branch out here.
Oh.
The $1 billion company.
Oh,
Not the sheep. That's small.
oh, yeah. Well, still the
Same.
yeah, still the same thing, and depending on what they want to do at that branch too. Do they want to have it for customer service, or do they want to have it for general day-to-day retail activities, warehouse, like what part of their big branch that they want to bring out here and see where it makes sense to place them in Richmond so they can get enough good traffic, and we have a lot of elements and amenities to sell within the people calling for it to make it a reality as well, and making sure that working together with community members that your public officials are behind there, which you also calling for it as well. And you can get the county board of supervisors involved too that represent this region calling for it as well.
I'd like to say we have time for 3 more questions, and then we'll give them 3 minutes to wrap it up with their closing statements. The microphone over there.
Hi. I am going to raise the issue of Point Melvin again because, Mayor, but in some ways I think you've been a really good mayor and a really smart man, and then you continually disappoint me with your sort of lack of respect for people who disagree with you. And I do want to say Point Melvin is a contentious issue, but you really shouldn't demean people who have a different vision than you do. And you shouldn't say they're not from Richmond when they are from Richmond just because, and to use the word 99% versus 1%, it's totally out of your own short-sighted kind of, since when you had the workshops, the majority of people were not happy with the settlement, not happy with the idea of high-price housing there, or huge cost for infrastructure there, and yet you still think 99% of the people are with you. When we say you didn't do the process in democratic fashion, and so far that's been upheld by the judge, you still think that this is like ridiculous, that we're just a bunch of pea shooters or something.
So,
and it's very disappointing. So my question is, you really think 99% of the people are for you on putting this high-end housing on one road behind Chevron at Point Melvin? Would you be willing to put it to a vote? Because you were for the casino too, and when it went to the vote, the people of Richmond voted it down. And I'd say that to you too, Melvin. Are you willing to put this issue to a vote because it is really contentious and it has split the community, and it's a really, really important issue for Richmond. It's not a side issue. It's a huge piece of land. It could be our Golden Gate Park, or it could be more like Brickyard Cove.
all right, thank you for your question.
If we were legally able to, without it causing problems to where we would tie us up in a litigation and potentially lose the land because of us being in the settlement deal, yes, personally I'd be willing to put it in a vote, because for me, personally, every time this conversation around Point Melvin came up, since I've been on the city council, even before I've been on the city council, I knew this was an issue that was bigger than me and bigger than my opinion, and I wanted to make sure that whatever we did, I was capturing all the concerns while making decisions on that as well. And even a lot of the visioning meetings I've had and people who were popping up that were trying to do visioning meetings, there was a consensus that people didn't want to see housing there. There was a consensus that this was extremely rushed because of the 2-year timeline, which is why I didn't vote on the settlement, because I thought it was way too much to get done personally. I understand the landscape we were in, but yeah, if this was something that we were able to come to a vote and that's how we can settle this period point blank, absolutely, yes. Let's put it to a vote of the community to see like what they want done with Point Melvin.
Well, as I said before, you know, the battle lines from Point Melvin are pretty well drawn. I don't see a lot of people changing their mind. You know, there's a group of people, and I think they're relatively small, who basically want to blow Point Melati up. They don't want anything to happen there. They want to obstruct it as long as they can and cost the city. You know how much the city is spending on Point Melati every year? Well over $1 million, with legal costs maybe nearly $2 million a year. That's money that could be going to pave your streets, hire more cops to be out at Hilltop. But these people would rather litigate Point Melati and see that money wasted on litigation than to get on with the project. And I don't see any of them changing their mind. You know, there are people who want to get on with it, there are people who want to blow it up. And unfortunately, we're locked in litigation. I think it's just gonna go on until somebody wins or loses, and then they'll probably file another lawsuit. You know, the city council did vote on this. We have 7 people on the city council, 4 votes are a majority. 4 out of 7 people voted to settle that litigation and move forward on Point Melati. 3 people on the city council did not. And instead of saying, okay, we exercised our right to vote, we lost, let's get on with it, they're fighting tooth and nail to try to undo it and do something else. And again, I'll tell you, it's costing every one of you money, millions of dollars, to maintain Point Melati, to fight that litigation.
You change that figure.
And you're seeing that money in your potholes. You're seeing it in lack of cops out here at Hilltop. It's hurting you. This is not where our city needs to go.
All right, one more question over this.
Yeah, my question is this for both candidates, because both of you have 2 different visions. And when I listen to you guys speak, one talks about development, the other one talks about being my brother's keeper. And as a taxpayer, I do believe in being my brother's keeper, but at the same time, as a taxpayer, I believe that we should see when we have to pay our taxes, which are some of the highest in the state, why aren't we seeing the quality of life issues that we need, which people have brought up? So my question is, what have you done in the last 4 years that you can actually say that I can see that you've done as Mayor Tom Willis and you Melvin with the RPA? What can I see? Because I have a hard time, and I think I'm pretty good at seeing stuff. My hearing and my seeing is pretty good. So if you could help me with that, please.
Could you sort of I didn't get the whole question. It was what are you going to do to get us?
What can I see in the last 4 years of your being mayor that I can walk down the street and I go, damn, Tom Butts did that. Damn, I know, good job. Or Melvin Willis did this. I know that I can see rent control. Tom Butts, I can't say what I can see for you, but maybe you can tell me. And I'm not really having rent control.
Well, it's ironic. I'm gonna use some words from my opponent. In his filing statement for mayor, he said, and I quote, "Richmond is safer, healthier, and more prosperous." And I agree with him. You know, we've made a lot of progress in Richmond. If you look at the biannual community survey we've done every 2 years since 2007, the number of people who believe Richmond is an excellent or good place to live has gone up 135%. The number of people who say the image of Richmond is excellent or good has gone up 250%. As I said before, crime is down. These are statistics. You know, you contact the police. You may not feel like it's down in your neighborhood, but overall, crime is down. Homicides are historically low. There are a lot of things that happen. We already talked about the unemployment rate, lowest on record. We passed the Richmond Promise program, which is given out already in the first 3 years, has given out over 1,000 scholarships to Richmond High School seniors. Every Richmond High School senior is eligible for the Richmond Promise scholarship. We have ferry service coming in 4 months. We've saved the post office. We've stood up to Trump on immigration, on climate change, on the environment. We've passed a balanced budget the last 3 years. Uh, so can we do better? Sure, we can do better. And that's what I'm committed to do. We're never going to sit on our laurels and say we finished the job. We're going to relax. We have more work to do. A lot of it's related to how much revenue the city brings in. And revenue is related to the economic activity in Richmond. Sales taxes, real property taxes, utility users taxes. That's what we pay for police with. It's what we use to maintain our streets and provide all the other services people need. When I was elected mayor, some people in the press said, what kind of mayor are you going to be? I said, I'm going to be the business mayor. Why the business mayor? We've got a lot of problems. We've got homelessness. We've got a housing crisis. Why do you want to be the business mayor? I said, because every one of those problems takes money. And if you don't, and our primary source of money is from those taxes. And if we can build up the economic activity in our city, we'll have the money to address those problems. So we've done remarkably well in the last few years, and my opponent even admits he wrote it down. But we still have a lot to do. We've got a lot of hard work ahead of us. And I think finally, I just want to say, we can't do this alone. You know, you had the police officers in here early. They can't do their job alone. You already talked to the community. You know, here's what you guys have to do. You got to see what's out there. You got to use the app. You got to call us up. You got to tell us where the problems are. And so we're all in this together. And the mayor's not going to solve your problems alone. The city council's not going to solve it. The city staff's not going to solve it. The police aren't going to solve it alone. We all have to work together. We're all part of the solution. And that's really what makes a successful city, is when we're all hitched up and moving in the same direction together.
So a few things that have happened that I've been a part of is actually for the past 2.5 years. Richmond, we were operating the city with Chevron next door and major industrial buildings around us, and we were operating that without a fire marshal that knew the California Fire Safety Code. And after myself, Ben, and another council member led on that issue, we now got a fire marshal for the first time in 2.5 years. And that Sims Melvin fire that ended up happening in Richmond happened because they were supposed to be inspected once a year, and they didn't get inspected. But that's because we had somebody wearing the umbrella, a fire chief, a fire marshal, but not necessarily having the fire safety code all the way down. Now we actually got that person in our city to look at fire prevention and look at all these other places that could be out of compliance and bring them into compliance. Like you said, not something that you're not too happy with, but the rent control and just cause for eviction ordinance, I've been able to work with like the John Stewart apartments when a lot of those tenants were looking at unfair evictions. And I mean, these evictions went to like you had male clothing in your closet. That's why I'm evicting you, because you have a registered occupant in there. And we were able to prevent those evictions from happening because we have a rent program that was able to look at that and work with the owners and the tenants to figure it out. And also we have some folks here from down the street, a place called Heritage Park. They were looking at a 12% rent increase this year, and I got involved with them and our rent program and other community organizations. That 12% rent increase ended up turning into a 3% rent increase, so those people didn't end up going homeless. I sit on the Richmond Homeless Task Force, and one of the things that we were going to do was clean up one of the encampments next to the railway, and it turns out that our code enforcement and police were having a lot of issues with the railway in terms of cleaning it up. But when they heard that the city was getting involved and people were actually going to go there and clean it up, the railway paid for the entire cleanup and cleaned up that entire area that was a mess for months, maybe even years, and there was a bunch of fires happening. They got involved and cleaned it all up. I led on the effort to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which met somewhat of resistance when I first introduced it, but ended up passing unanimously, and I led on it, and now it's going to be $15 an hour by next year. I met with youth at Deanza Middle School that did a lot of research around tobacco in their community and how it was impacting them and their families and the recommendations that they went through. Not everybody was necessarily happy with it, but I was working with youth and they told me to make a decision, so I did. And working with them, they were able to pass some tobacco bans and everything to help increase health in the community, because they showed that the different hot zones of where tobacco was really flooding those areas was happening in areas that were low-income people of color. And they did all that research and presented it to us, and we ended up passing that unanimously. And for 20 years, actually, there were a group of community members that were working on actually having a 1% art fee for new developments that come in. So whenever developments come in, we don't just have just the building itself, but we have some sort of form of art added to it to make Richmond look more attractive and be able to bring out some other characteristic within the city that's more than just a building, but actually giving us an attraction, an idea. And they worked on that for 20 years. And when I was on the council, I was able to be that conduit to help them fight for it in the past. And just at the county level, what I've been doing, I pushed for a program called Contra Costa Cares, which is a basic health care program for those folks who are undocumented and can't get access to insurance because of that. We passed that program. Now 4,400 people in our county, and a lot of them Richmond residents, are able to have preventive health care to keep them out of emergency rooms. And working with the Racial Justice Coalition, we identified that juveniles were being charged fines and fees who got caught up in the criminal justice system, and you were only supposed to be charged those fees if you were convicted, but it didn't matter if they were convicted, they were still being charged the fines and fees. So not only did we get the county to stop that practice, but we are also got them to commit to pay the families back that were illegally charged. And one other thing that I ended up working on is when the sheriff was doing the jail expansion, and that was a proposal. I worked with the city, one of the council members in El Cerrito, to take a position against expanding the jail out there, saying we can use our county dollars for other things besides just a jail expansion. El Cerrito took a position on it, and what ended up happening with that deal is El Cerrito was leaving Richmond for some reason because they had a disagreement about the fees they were paying for dispatch services, so they were going to go through the sheriff. Now, when El Cerrito took a position, though, against the jail, the sheriff denied them services, and this is actually in an op-ed article that he wrote, denied them services. So I was able to work with our city manager, work with that councilman El Cerrito, and she worked with her city manager. And now we maintain revenue and kept El Cerrito's revenue here. They're going to be using dispatch services with us continuously, and they were looking to leave, and that was revenue that was going to disappear. But because I got involved in the conversation, worked with our city departments, El Cerrito still uses our dispatch services. So those are just some of the things I've done in the half that I've been on the council.
All right, we have time for maybe a few quick questions if you guys can answer briefly. So the first question is...
I have a multi-question thing. First of all, when Chevron paid $5 million to the city of Richmond, how are we, the people, supposed to know where the money went? Number one. Second part of my question is, what is Richmond doing to get rid of all the old businesses, like the old Mylands building that's been sitting empty, and other houses and other buildings that were businesses that are still sitting and rotting in the city of Richmond? Thank you.
So I think the easy answer for the Chevron settlement, I can double check, but after that was settled and litigated, we paid all the fees that we needed to pay when we got the $5 million, so we didn't actually get a whole $5 million. It ended up going to our general fund so we could balance it to put towards our services like the library, parks and rec, or any other, or code enforcement, abatement, any other service that we actually need to fund. So it just ended up going into our general fund, I believe, but I can follow up on that to see what happened to it. But it wasn't a whole $5 million after it was said and done. It was like 3-point-something million. In terms of the vacant buildings out here, when I first first started organizing back in 2001. We ended up pushing for a vacant property registration ordinance. So if there is a vacant building within the city, the owners of that vacant building need to register it with the city. And we may not be able to do much about it because it's owned by a private entity. What we can do is hold them accountable and be able to make sure that it's not being a nuisance or hazard of the community. So we're just going to be able to keep track. But for some of the vacant homes, a program I now support that's actually been doing very well is there have been a group of folks at the Richmond Community Foundation in partnership with the city floating social impact bonds to revitalize these zombie properties and get them on the market for a first-time homebuyer program. And they're connected with SparkPoint, that's connecting new homeowners to actually get into new housing once they revitalize some of these empty and vacant properties. And a lot of it takes negotiations with the banks and everything to sell them at a discounted rate so it can make it worthwhile. So that's some of the things that's happening now. And it was started before I got on the council. It's something I completely support 100% now because I've actually seen real residents and real community members that live in this community that benefit from that, and now they're homeowners because of it.
The $5 million, a substantial amount of it basically got siphoned off the top to pay for legal fees and other costs. And I think what was left was somewhere between $2 and $3 million. And it was allocated to one-time projects in Richmond. They were all identified in the budget that we adopted back at the end of June. And if you want an accounting of that, you can go look at the budget. What was the second question about?
Vacant buildings.
Buildings. Okay, so Richmond has a huge code enforcement problem, and by that I'm talking about dumping, unkept vacant lots, vacant buildings. These are all a drag on the city. It costs the city a lot of money to deal with them, to clean up the dumping, and so it's an expense to the city as well as being blight on the neighborhood. I introduced a measure that's going to be on your November ballot. It's called, for shorthand, it's called the vacant property tax, and it taxes vacant lots and vacant abandoned buildings at a substantial amount. And it'll accomplish, if it passes, it'll accomplish two things. One is it will provide a powerful motivation and incentive for the people who own these, and most of them are out of town. Very few of these are owned by your neighbors. They're owned by somebody that lives in another state or even another country. It will motivate them to sell them to somebody who'll deal with them or develop the property. The second thing is that it's a special tax. So the money is earmarked for only two purposes. One is to address homeless issues, and the second one is to augment the resources of code enforcement. So it's a little bit of a steep climb. It requires a 2/3 vote, but it's kind of a no-brainer. If you don't own a vacant lot, there's no reason in the world you shouldn't vote for it. It's not going to affect you. And if you don't own a vacant building that's run down, then vote for it. If we get 2/3 vote, it will bring about $5 million into the city's fund that will be allocated to those two things. And then finally, you don't necessarily have to wait for that. A lot of times vacant buildings violate our nuisance ordinance. So you can make a complaint to code enforcement right now if there's something about the building that violates the nuisance ordinance, and they can take steps to abate it, including assessing fines and fees on the owner, and even eventually going to court to force the owner to clean it down or tear it up. And the city actually demolishes about half a dozen buildings a year in Richmond. It's a long process and it's expensive because they got to go to court and get court orders in order to do that because it's private property. But they have done it, and they continue to do it.
All right, last question of the night.
Okay, I have one question for you and one question for you, Melvin. Okay, you've been in office for 4 years. What have you done to address the massive issue of homelessness right here? I've been here for almost 70 years, and I have not ever seen what I see happening right here in Richmond in my life. What have you done to assist the people that's out there that's homeless? And I want to address everyone in here real quick. Vice Mayor Melvin Willis, I'm representing Heritage Park. When the issue came up with the 12% increase, now this is a senior living complex, this man stepped up with no problem. You didn't help him do anything. I want y'all to know that, know what you're dealing with, okay? You did not help us one bit, and you sat up there and said things that you know was not true. So I want to know, in 4 years, what have you done to help the homeless people? And aside of trying to push people out that's already have a place to stay. Because you all in favor of that. My question for you, Melvin, is when you become mayor, what is your intent in helping assist us to clean up this camp and to provide for the homeless? You first.
Okay, excellent question. First of all, I think that it's important to understand that the city has no independent source of revenue to address homeless issues. Anything the city spends on homelessness has to come out of the general fund.
I just want to know what have you done.
I'm going to tell you. Just let me finish, okay? I got to lay a foundation. So the city doesn't have resources to do that unless they take them from somewhere else. So, where's somewhere else? Cops, streets, nobody wants that. So, but the county does have resources. The county has a number of staff, full-time staff people that are part of their health department, and they have substantial funding in the millions of dollars that comes down through HUD and other sources to address homelessness. So the best strategy for the city is not to go it alone. The best strategy for the city is to work with the county to make sure that the city gets its fair share of county resources for the homeless. And that's something that I work on weekly, and I've been doing it for at least the last couple of years. Now, one of the things that the county asks the city to do is to help fund what they call a core team. A core team is a mobile team that provides services to the homeless. They have people who work with mental health, substance abuse, try to help people find shelter, all the kinds of problems exist. It costs, right now we share a core team with about half the county. And so one of the things that Lana Martin, who heads up the county homeless staff, asked us for is to provide her with $160,000 this year so that they could establish a core team that's dedicated to Richmond. The city council in our budget passed, we allocated $100,000 toward that. And so she's already started building that team. It's not the full 160, but that money is going to come from another source. And I can't tell you where it is, but it's going to come. So sometime this year, the county will be able to provide a full-service core team dedicated to Richmond. A couple of other things. I talked about Measure T. Measure T would provide about $4 million a year for homeless services. And Measure T is not in my hands anymore. It's in your hands. If you go out and vote for Measure T, that's about $5 million a year for homeless services that will start up within a few months. So go vote for Measure T. Finally, I've been working very closely, again, with Luana Martin in the county with a project. They got a grant from HUD to build a 50-unit supported homeless micro pad building somewhere in the county. And so she was looking for a city that would work with her to get that done, to not throw up any impediments and try to get it done as quickly as possible. And so I offered to do everything I could to help get that done. And it's well on the way. She made a presentation at the West County Mayor's Conference this morning about progress on it. She expects the RFP for the developer to go out in about 45 days. The building will be located down near the old public health building on 37th Street. Down where Toys R Us used to be, and kind of in that area. And so that'll provide fully supported housing for 50 homeless people. So these are at least 3 of the projects I've been working on. The 50-unit micropads project, Measure T to provide $4 million for the homeless, and then finally working very closely with the county to make sure that we in West County and we in Richmond get our fair share of the services and the money that comes down through the county for homeless people.
So I sit on the homeless task force, and recently, this year actually, we presented to the city council a list of recommendations to help out with the homelessness, which is one of them is safe parks and safe encampments, mobile services, and also connecting folks with other services to get them transitioned out of housing. Recently, myself and a member of the homeless task force, Jan Gilbert, attended I forgot the name of the group, but they're all service providers for the homeless, and we got connected with somebody named from Mental Health Services, and basically what they told me is that they're looking to work with cities that can figure out a partnership that if we identify somebody that's having a mental health episode, they can actually come to that person with a housing first model and basically have housing in their back pocket. So after all this election business is said and done, I plan on meeting with them to get MSH to the city and get them connected with the task force and identifying those folks that are having mental health issues so we can connect them with those supportive services. We're looking at a public-private partnership to figure out what is a good location, which we need to get a meeting with you, because we were talking about maybe something here when you had interest, but that's a different time. But to have some sort of public-private partnership where there would be a safe encampment, and the idea is not just having an encampment, but working with the county to bring services and making sure that there is security as well, so it actually is a safe haven and a safe encampment to help keep the city clean, because if we're not supporting homeless folks with these encampments, it's survival. They're going to go out and these encampments are going to pop up. They tend to be blighted. Fires tend to happen. So code enforcement and RPD is actually part of this conversation, working with us constantly. We meet once a month to deal with this issue. And recently what ended up happening is we contracted $20,000 to $25,000 to GRIP to help support them in their homeless services, including the warming center that they wanted to do. And working with Councilmember Myron, he was able to work with our city attorney to figure out how we could use our in-lieu fees that we collect for market rate development. And part of that recommendation is that $300,000 of that money of in-lieu fees would go towards homeless services and figuring out. So this is not just a Richmond area issue, it's a regional and statewide issue. We have over 500,000, California has over 500,000 homeless population, so it's going to take constant time, but I'm constantly engaged and accountable to that task force with a lot of amazing people coming over there, the amazing ideas that are coming up, but at the end of the day, what it's going to take is political willpower, and something that's going to be coming up is I've already worked with our staff to put something on the agenda to label Richmond as a homeless emergency, to try to line us up with potential funding that can come down the way to help out with homeless services as well. So those are just some of the multiple things that I'm already doing and will continue to do.
I want to thank you guys for coming to the Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council meeting, and I also want to give you the opportunity for a closing statement if you'd like to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to tell us why you should be elected. Either one of you can start.
Only as a warning, and this is the only thing I'll say on it, every candidate's forum, there is a piece of paper that our mayor has been reading on saying a bunch of exaggerated and inaccurate things about me. So if you have any questions about any of those things mentioned, feel free to talk to me after the forum. But thank you all for your time this evening. My name is Melvin Willis. I'm 28 years old, grew up in Richmond, went to the local schools here, and for the past 7 years I've been a community organizer. What community organizing has taught me is what a fair democracy actually looks like. It's been my job to go out in the neighborhood, to talk to people door to door, really identify what those issues and concerns are, bringing people together to figure out the creative solutions and push for those at our local government level, at our county government level, and even taking us to the statewide level as well. When I was asked already some of the things that I've done, like helping pass Contra Costa Cares for healthcare for the undocumented, leading on rent control and just cause for eviction, and supporting Prop 10, so we have an opportunity to expand on that and maintain our existing affordable housing is stuff that I'm working on. Leading on increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour, being engaged with the Racial Justice Coalition and the Racial Justice Task Force meeting that's been happening to identify the different racial disparities and pushing the county to adopt different practices to not just look at incarceration as key, but actual preventative programs that prevent recidivism and actually invest in the community members so they don't get back into criminal justice pathways, things I've been involved in, which has led me to support issues around banning the box on housing and also job applications, so those that do have a history that want to clean up their lives will not be discriminated against. And I've also lobbied at the state level to fight for different measures to increase housing for affordable housing in California. And we just worked on passing Richmond Pittsburgh's the June primary. There's a luxury real estate transfer tax that will tax properties of $1 million that are sold. That will trigger that money to go into Kids First, which will dedicate 3% of our general fund to youth programs and services as long as we're bringing new money in. And I believe investing in youth and investing in those services and increasing those areas are some of the things that we need to do to be able to increase public safety. If we invest in our people, they will be invested in the city. You care about somebody, they'll actually care about where they live, and that's some of the things that I'm working on and bringing to the table. One of the things that I mainly want to do as mayor is make sure that City Hall is open to all of its people. The perfect democracy to me is being able to meet with people where they're at, figure out what your vision is, and making sure you're holding me accountable and the rest of the city council accountable to actually work on those issues. And we're not going to be a cure-all to everything, but we can at least start doing something and moving forward on issues. And that is my commitment right now as vice mayor. And if I win mayor for your vote, that is my commitment in the mayor's office, because the mayor's office has more resources than any of the city council members actually have. City council members, we have to be really on hand and on site, but being able to have the right staff, an expanded budget, and more of an ability to connect with staff members here and there because you're in the mayor's office right in the city hall. That is what I'm offering, to take residential concerns, connect it to the right departments, work together so we can figure out where some of these speeding areas happen, the speed bumps, the roundabouts, and just making sure that you can use me as an outlet to get your issues addressed so we can have a thriving community. So once again, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Melvin Willis, running for Richmond Mayor in 2018 on November 6th, and I hope I can count on your vote on November 6th.
So once again, as my opponent wrote in his filing statement, Richmond is safer, healthier, and more prosperous. Those are not compelling reasons to change the leadership of this city. If anything, it's an admission that a lot of what we've been doing is has been going in the right direction. Before I served the last 3.5 years as mayor, I served on the city council for 19 years. My opponent's been on the city council for 19 months. I think sometime he might be Richmond's mayor. He might be a very good mayor, but I don't think his time has come yet. And I think another thing that you need to look at, one of the things that's important for your elected officials, and particularly your mayor, is the ability to work with leaders and legislators from all over the Bay Area. Richmond is not isolated. We're not a small town out in the mountains of Montana. We're part of a big urban area. Most of our problems do not stop at the Richmond border. So whatever we're able to do in Richmond, we often have to work with other people, our neighbors and the legislators and so forth who work for us at the state capitol and in Congress. I've been endorsed by Gavin Newsom, our next governor, Mark DeSaulnier, our current congressman, George Miller, our former congressman, Nancy Skinner, our state senator, Tony Thurman, our assembly member and hopefully future state superintendent of schools, Dinah Beckton, our new district attorney. I've been endorsed by every mayor in West County. I've been endorsed by the entire building and construction trades unions. I've been endorsed by the West County, the Contra Costa County, and the State Democratic Party. I've been endorsed by about 2/3 of the neighborhood council presidents in Richmond. And the reason is that for 23 years, I have worked with these people. I've worked on them on common problems, trying to make sure that Richmond gets its fair share of state and federal resources, trying to make sure that if we have a problem that we can't solve alone, that we collaborate and build the strength we need to get it done. So take a look at those endorsements. I think it's kind of an indication of all of our leaders out there who believe that I'm the right person to continue being your mayor for the next 4 years. Thank you.
I want to thank the candidates for coming, and you could see this video on Everybody's Richmond in Facebook and
Radio Free Richmond.
Radio Free Richmond on YouTube.
There'll be a link on YouTube. Also, it'll be posted on the next door for Central Richmond, East Richmond's north and east. And please share it if you get the link. Give me half a chance to post it tonight, though. I got to have some dinner too.
So next Thursday, we're going to have West Contra Costa Unified School District candidates come out. We have one in the audience, I believe, Carlos Tabuada. And then, there you go, Carlos. And then next Friday, we're going to have the city council candidates. And I believe we have a couple of those guys in the audience as well. You'd like to stand? Eduardo? So come see the school board candidates, city council candidates, and I want to thank the two mayoral candidates for coming out. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.